Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us to our first webinar, which is going to be part of a series of webinars that we are providing and we are planning to help you dealing with the situation we live in right now. We as teachers are facing huge challenges, and one of the challenges we think is very important is how to deal, how to cope, how to develop online classes. So that's why we're thinking to, through these webinars, provided with the strategies, provide ideas in order to help you. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for watching us. My name is Abdel Jacobo. I'm going to talk today about online teaching strategies. Okay, let me introduce myself. I hold a PhD in education, a master's degree in teaching English as a foreign language, also a BA in education in Normal Superior with teaching English as a foreign language specialty. I also have a TKT diploma, teacher training, and ISELT. 20 years teaching experience at different levels, elementary, junior high, high school, adults, business as well. So I have experience. I can tell you that I have pretty much an idea about teaching. I also have more than 1,000 hours or so training hours in topics such as leadership, classroom management, teacher training, mindfulness, leadership, among others. I've been a teacher trainer and teacher educator since 2010. And right now I'm working as an English specialist for academic services in University of Data Publishing, Mexico, SM. And eventually I work as well as an academic consultant for the British Council and Senegal. So I'm very happy to be with you today. And the idea, as I told you at the introduction, is to share some strategies. Well, it is important to support what I'm saying with theory. So I'm going to present a theoretical framework. So don't worry, it's going to be fast. It's going to be in less than 10 minutes. It is important because we are going to associate the strategies I'm going to present with the theory or some ideas or the rationale behind about what I'm presenting. Okay. First of all, I want to talk about the 21st century education. As you might know, the 21st century education proposes to work with many sources of information. It means social networks, wikis, search engines, etc. So everything we have right now and our students and ourselves are dealing with. Access to information, it has to be easier and faster. And the teacher is not the center of attention. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later, but these are some of the main ideas of the 21st century education. And what about the teacher? All right, so we wanted or not, right now we are 21st century teachers. So what we had to do is to rethink aspects of education in terms of space. So the classroom arrangement is important. So we have to forget the traditional settings and how also the classroom is used. That's very important. Also about the time, what we do in the classroom. We had to forget about the traditional teaching as we remember, as we were kids and we were taught. So right now it's try to change the point of view of teaching, because we want to focus on higher other skills like analyzing, evaluating, creating, debating. We are going to see when we talk about the strategies about how can we focus on that. We mentioned as well, we had to make use of different sources of information. So the teacher is not the provider anymore. I mean, we are not the source of knowledge anymore. So we had to think on different sources. And finally, we are facilitators. This is something also very important. We are not teachers anymore. So we had to provide the strategies and opportunities for students in order to facilitate knowledge and learning in the classroom. As I mentioned, maybe you're familiar with the picture. This is the 20th century teaching, very traditional. The class arrangement, all the chairs are online. The students are just quiet. The teacher is the center of attention. They memorize, they work with books, and we have to pay attention all the time. So we work also more in discipline. Discipline becomes very important in terms of the traditional education. Okay, so we had to transition now into the 21st century education, in which the student is a self-learner. So we facilitate the opportunities for our students in order to research, use technology, learn to learn, analyze, debate. So the traditional classroom has changed, and especially during this time, this 2020, we know we're facing difficult times, and we weren't prepared to work on online classes. Probably we had incorporated some features of technology in our classes, like projectors, computers, internet. It depends on the school, on the context of every school is different at the end. But we are making that transition into the 21st century. I'm going to explain in detail how we're doing it. And finally, the 21st century education, we had to think in terms of less content, more skills. As I told you, no more memorization. Finishing the books right now, it's not our goal. We have to develop our student skills. And when we talk about languages, because we are language teachers, it is important to develop, of course, the core skills, but as well the soft skills and high thinking order skills. So less content. Talk about discipline as well. In the past, it was very important to be quiet, to pay attention all the time, to memorize, to finish what we had to finish, to complete the book, etc. But we had to think more on character, how our students are going to live outside the class. Resilience, soft skills, in terms of language, how they're going to use English language in the real world, a different context. And finally, less teaching, more learning. That's also very, very important. We are used to be the center of attention one more time and to focus on the way we teach, but sometimes we forget the way our students learn, and it involves a lot of things. But right now, especially on online courses, we had to think that we are not the center of attention anymore, and not even technology is not the center of attention. I'm going to talk about that. Learning is what it becomes more important, all right? To be sure students are learning and they are getting something from what we plan in our classes. Okay, and in bed on the 21st century education, I chose these ideas. The first one is blended learning, and the second one is a flipped classroom. And the blended learning, as you may know, over the last years, as I said, we were incorporating technology little by little in our classes, even we want it or not. In many schools right now, we're working with projectors, internet. In some schools, even the students have tablets, or they can use smartphones in class. So we incorporate the traditional face-to-face learning, let's say, with online features, online learning. So that what blended learning means, to combine the best of teaching methods in the traditional way we teach in a classroom, in school, with online learning. Of course, right now, it becomes more the online feature because we are not in the classrooms, no, until, I don't know when, maybe in a month or more. So we've been for a while working online. So the challenge, I guess, in my opinion, will be when we go back to normality, when we go back to our classes, how we are going to continue working and incorporating those features, the online features, into our classes. So to keep the blended learning, it would be very interesting to see what we're gonna do after all the experience. And I think it's very positive because yes, it took us by surprise. We weren't prepared, but we are now preparing. We're working on our professional development, learning how to teach online. So the idea is keep going. So when we go back to our classes, blended learning will be part of the 21st century education we were asking for so long. And the flipped classroom, that's a very interesting concept that I'm going to focus the strategies I'm going to present, because flipped classroom is as you can see the pictures and you understand the concept of flipped is to change, to put it, let's say, upside down something, the way we see it. And in terms of a class, I'm going to explain how to do it in an online environment. That's my goal. Summarizing, we had to transition from the traditional classroom into blended learning. Right now, we're working more on online features, but eventually, when we go back to our classes, to our classrooms, we had to develop strategies in order to take advantage of what our students have learned and also ourselves to continue with blended learning. And about the flipped classroom, I'm going to focus on the flipped classroom because what I propose on this webinar is through the online classes we have in right now, we can flip our classes at 3 moments: before class, during class, and after class. And when I talk about class, I refer class, the real-time class, the synchronous time, the synchronous feature of the online class in which you are connected through different platforms like Zoom or Microsoft Teams or Google Class, in which you are connected at that time with your class, with your students, and you teach, like I'm doing right now. I am on the camera developing a topic, but you are with your students on real time. So that's synchronous. Asynchronous is what I'm doing because you eventually will see it recorded. So it won't be like live action, right? So when I talk about class, it's that live action moment, real time, in which you are with your students. So understanding that, we have those 3 moments that the flipped classroom proposes, which is before class, during class, and after class. So before class is where the students get, let's say, familiar with new concepts and terminology using digital media. So of course they can take notes, they can write down questions, build knowledge, previous knowledge before that class moment. And in class, we have the face-to-face, I'm sorry, is the real-time moment in which you are with your students connected, in which your students explore the concepts through the previous learning activities. The teacher promotes discussions, one-to-one, if it's possible, or the whole class interaction with the teacher. So it is more you providing feedback about what they have built on the previous stage. And after class is when students, after that moment with interaction with the teacher, with you, the students continue checking for understanding of the concepts through higher order application and evaluation. So they had to consolidate knowledge. Okay, so those are the 3 moments. That's why it's flipped, because we don't focus on the class itself. So we provide 2 very important moments in which our students learn and consolidate very important or key concepts. I'm going to explain a little bit more. We have here another point of view of a flipped classroom. Okay, so it is a full circle because you have the flipped classroom, and on the first stage, it's where we promote learning through activities. In this case, will be through online activities. And then we have the learning environment, which is the synchronous stage, not the learning environment. And then you have to consolidate the knowledge, what we call educational technology, right? So all this full circle is how it's going to work in your classes. So everything is connected and is a full circle. Okay, now that was a little bit about theory. As I promised, it was fast. If you want to go deeper on those approaches, the idea, the flipped classroom and blended learning as well. And the 21st century, you can research. There is a lot of information out there in order to get deeper into this knowledge. But now, what about the strategies? Right. Since we are language teachers, I focus on the productive and receptive skills. Okay, so about reading and writing, we have to identify the 3 moments: before class, during class, and after class. So on the before class stage, the preparation stage, what I'm proposing for reading and writing is that the students have to read at their own pace. They have to check the understanding of the readings with interactive activities. I'm going to provide some resources later to do this. During class, students organize their thoughts, extend vocabulary and grammar, and engage in writing discussion, debates, and activities. Okay, so that's very important because you ask them to type, to debate, to develop writing, and of course you are providing feedback. And after classes, when the students reflect on what they learned and evaluate their own progress in a responsible work site. So quizzes, questionnaires are very important in this stage. And also I'm going to provide resources. So we have the receptive stage in which they practice reading, let's say, or they are working with the skill of reading, and then they have to work on writing according to the topic they read about. What about speaking and listening? It's quite similar. So we have the receptive part, the listening, in which the students listen at their own pace, check understanding, and they use interactive activities in order to do that. True or false, complete the sentences, prediction, predict the ending or the context. There are many strategies, as you are familiar to, because you are teachers, but now on an interactive environment. And during class, one more time, is where the students organize the thoughts, extend vocabulary, grammar, and engage in discussion, right? So you're using different tools like Zoom or Microsoft Teams. You are promoting discussion, right? The challenge will be as well, and I'm going to talk about that later when we have 20 or 30 students. But you are providing opportunities to practice speaking on an online environment according to the topic they listened before. And after class, one more time, students reflect on what they learned and evaluate their own progress in a responsible work site. Okay, so what is a responsible work site, by the way? So this is a list of my recommendations. I'm pretty sure you're familiar to many resources, but this is something that I have used, something that I have proved, and you can adapt them as well. And I will ask you to stay tuned to our social networks, because little by little I'm going to develop different tutorials to help you to navigate, to be familiar, how to register, how to work, to recognize those resources you see on the screen. they're going to be 5 minutes tutorials. So I'm going to go onto a particular resource and then we're going to explore. So stay tuned to our social network. All right, on the stage of before class, for both listening and speaking and reading and writing, I am proposing different sites as ABC, Y for Kids, BBC Learning English, Dave's ESL Cafe, Duolingo, Easy Word of English, ESL Bits, GCF Learn for free. Okay, as I said, I'm going to develop a series of tutorials exploring those resources. But you can always keep this webinar and watch it again and navigate by yourself. During class, I propose this core chatting, right? We can include video, audio, Flipgrid, probably you're familiar too. The students participate in discussion. Okay, they can also use short videos, wordplay similar to Facebook, and actually it is developed by Facebook. Tumble as well, not blogging platform, so they can blog the writing stage, for example. And after class, we have Google Forms. We can make quizzes as well in Kahoot and Socrative. Nerdpod, which is an online classroom tool. You can create questionnaires and quizzes as well. Quizlet, Ed, puzzle, and quizzes in a game format that also is very attractive for a student. So those are some ideas that I'm proposing. If you are familiar to most of them, congratulations. If you are not, feel welcome, feel free to explore, right? But don't worry, I'm going to help you to do it on this series of tutorials I'm going to develop, and then we're going to post on our social network. All right, as I promised, this webinar is intended to be useful and not a lot of theory, because I am pretty sure you're eager. You feel you're hungry of ideas and strategies. General recommendations: think smart. What is thinking smart regarding online classes, online teaching? Well, first of all, we have to consider if we are using flipped classroom, and we're going to use the 3 stages in our classes. You have to think to make it a group effort, right? It is impossible right now to work one-to-one, okay, because the situation and also technology and everyone, it's at home, you're working at home, or students are learning at home. But when you consider planning online teaching, make it group effort, involve everyone. It has to be challenging for everyone, and they have to be they have to feel part of a community, a group. They're still a group, right? Focus on active learning. As I mentioned, we are facilitators, so we passive students. We want students in which they think, develop higher thinking skills, soft skills, right? So we had to promote active, because if you just tell them watch a video, well, what is the active part? You are incorporating technology, you are incorporating learning features, but you have to think in terms of make it active. Chunk lessons, that's very, very important. We want to, when we are learning technology and we will learn a new resource or a new app, for example, or a new web page, we want to use it right away, and we want to, cover everything, and we send activities and we send content, and we're expecting our students to do it. But we had to create lessons, and we would just chunk the lessons with very key ideas. Something that I'm doing right now. So I'm not having a 2 hours webinar with a lot of theory and a lot of concepts that maybe you won't find useful, but I'm just chunking the webinar, chunking the lessons, and then I'm going to develop different series of tutorials with the resources in order not to make a 3 hours webinar, right, with all the resources explained. So think in terms of that. When is possible, I understand the situation in many countries, many places in Mexico as well. We have groups of 30, 40 students, and we're working with them online format with the same number of students. But if it's possible for you and you have that flexibility from the school to make a calendar and maybe work with groups of 10 students, 20 probably, instead of the whole group, keep it that way. If it's not, when I develop the tutorials, I'm going to give you more strategies in every web page and every resource with large groups. Be present. This is very important. We're at home working. We had to deal with administrative issues as well at home. We parents, our children are learning at home as well. You are dealing with noises, with a lot of things going around your environment when you are with your students in the interactive class. But you had to be present. When you plan on the three stages, you had to be there, right? Forget about your phone, forget about what's going around, because your students are expecting to get feedback from the first stage, right? If they read and they listen and then you are providing opportunities, it won't work if you are focusing on another thing, doing something different, maybe connected, but working on the cell phone, on your computer. So be there for them, because you had to listen, you had to read, you had to be there to provide a specific feedback for the third stage, in which you're going to create quizzes and forms to consolidate the weak areas. You listen when you went there on the real-time interaction. Analyze your time. Analyze the time you have. Be wise using your time. In most of the classes, or for especially English lessons, that are like 15 minutes class, maybe an hour. So you have to be wise and how to use your time. So develop the different stages as you plan, as you usually plan, the introduction and then the development and then the closure, and on online format. I'm going to develop another webinar about planning online classes and how to use your time wisely on a digital way. Okay, but consider the time is very important. And finally, a very important recommendation: embrace technology as your friend, not your enemy. This is very important. I know for some teachers out there, they feel stressful because technology for them is not very easy, or they find it difficult to use or difficult to be creative. Well, remember that regarding technology is all about experimentation. Try before, so don't try to use a resource on the spot. Try it before, rehearse, use it yourself, and you will learn eventually. We are not native digital learners. We had to learn, and we continue learning. And I'm pretty sure if you embrace this idea of not seeing technology as your enemy, it will change your perspective. And I'm talking about in all areas of your life, but especially on this moment, on these times in which we have to, even we want it or not, work with technology, teach with technology, and work on providing opportunities to our students to learn. So just be patient, breathe, relax, and try. And if it doesn't work, try it again. It doesn't work, try again. Everything is learning. The world is changing. Everyone is changing. Everyone is learning, and we as teachers also have to embrace technology, because we have to. Okay. Those were my general recommendations. And finally, I want to thank you for watching us, for being with us on this webinar. I remember my name is Abdel Jacobo. That's my personal email, jacoboabdel@hotmail.com, and that's my WhatsApp. If you have ideas, questions, I want to keep discussion regarding this topic and others, and please, I will be very thankful, very happy if you give me suggestions for more webinars. And the idea is that when we go back to normality, continue with the webinars or probably workshops face to face, and I will be very happy, and I can see most of the people later working together on our professional development. And finally, teachers, please be strong, stay safe. We had to be there for the students, and I'm pretty sure this is going to happen, and we will be very successful through these times. Thank you for watching us, and I will see you soon. Bye bye.